Welcome to T.O.L. Studios, and today in lesson 15 we're going to take a look at what we were talking about on the last lesson. Now we're in the key of G major, and we learned we took the same thing we knew from the key of C major, which was the two whole steps, or between the first, second note, whole step, second to the third note, whole step, third to the fourth. That's why so we had two whole steps, half, three whole steps, half. And we were basically following those notes, and we just started with C as the first note, and that's what created these. And we didn't have any of the things called sharps or flats. Talked about like why the notes went where they went on the guitar, and that's why we've been skipping frets. Or like on a piano, if we were doing that, if we were hitting a C and a D, that's why we'd be skipping this black key, because we were technically going up 1, 2. Just like again on a guitar, we'd be going up 1, 2. Or here's a C and a D, or here's a C and a D. So the same pattern, okay? Or here's a C and a D. And that's still going up 2 frets. So on a piano, that's a C and a D. We went up 1, 2. This is a C and a D, 1, 2. So it's the same thing, okay? If you're playing saxophone, doesn't matter what instrument, they just look different. Piano, to me, is kind of like reading a book. You can see it a little easier. Sometimes guitar, they just look like a bunch of strings, but that's why I said memorize those letters so you can see it the same way. Okay, so the last lesson, then we took the letter G and started, and we just put them in order, but then we made sure we followed that same formula here, where we did 2 whole steps, half, and 3 whole steps. So in this case, G is our first note. We had to make sure we went to the second note, which is A, and we have to make sure it goes up 2 frets, or a whole step, which we know from this key. We already learned that. It is a whole step. It's just now we're starting with that here. And then here, A to B, or between the second and the third note, we've got to make sure it goes 2. And again, we already knew that's where that goes. So we didn't really have to change anything here. It's just this becomes the first note, second, third. Now we're doing a half step, which is the same thing. It already is, so we know this. Then a whole step, and a whole step. And then we got to this third one, and we knew E to F is not a whole step. That's actually a half step, because we knew that from this key. But we had to do 3 whole steps, just like we would have done here, between between the 4th and the 5th, the 5th and the 6th, and the 6th and the 7th. So we had to do the same thing here, 4th and 5th, whole step, 5th and 6th, whole step, 6th and 7th, whole step. And that's why we took the F and we bumped it 1 more note. Or like in this case, if you're on a piano, if this is an F, we're going to raise it up, the F, to an F sharp. Or like on a guitar, we know this is an F. That's why we're going to play it up 1. So we take the F and we play it here. Okay? So basically that scale now, and you take what you kind of knew from here, but you're memorizing this pattern, which is what I told you to do back in this scale. And now we're just taking a different letter, and that way you do it taking the letters you learned from this scale. But by following this, we're going to find out sometimes we have to change these letters. We might have to make them a sharp, or in other scales you might sharp another note. And we'll kind of explore that later. So we're going to stay in this scale, but I'm going to show you how to take everything I've shown you from this scale, the patterns, and now how to apply that to the guitar. Okay, so as we looked in the last videos, we talked about pattern 3, 4, and then 5 and 6. I'm basically going to show it's the same patterns. It's just we're going to always think of that 6th string with the way we tune it, which we know when we play that open, that's our E. So I told you in the key of C, this was pattern 3 and 4, and that's not going to change. But the reason we started with pattern 3 and 4 was because E is the 3rd note of the C scale. So we can say we tuned our 6th string to the E note. And then since F goes on the 1st fret, that's again a half step. So I'm saying this is pattern 3 and 4 right here. This one that we learned. Now, in the key of G, same thing. We're still going to tune that to an E. So we're trying to find what number is E of the G scale. So if we're playing an E, it's not the first note, the second, third, fourth, fifth, but E would be the sixth note of that scale. So you're basically going to take the pattern that you already know from this scale that you did on the sixth note, which in this case it was A, and that would have been the pattern I taught you right here. And that's why you should have that memorized by now. Now what we're going to do is anything you played here is going to basically be your open notes now, because A is the sixth note of the C scale. We're going to take that same pattern we just did, but we're going to make it start on the sixth note of this one. Meaning I'm going to take my first finger that's playing the A right here, and I'm going to visualize that starting on the sixth note of this scale, which is E. So in this case, we've got two spots. We've got the open note, and then we've got this note. Okay? Now I'm going to start with this one. I'll explain why. But it's going to be the same thing, but I kind of explain why it's a little different here. So if we start here on the 12th fret where E goes, I'm telling you it's going to look just like this pattern. Meaning we did a whole step and then a half step, and then a whole step and a half step there. You're going to follow that same pattern here, just started on 12, and that's E, and then F sharp, G, then A, B, C, then your D, E, F sharp. Remember how we kind of pulled our finger back when we did that in this pattern? So there's your F sharp, G, still using the pinky, but just different note, A, then I'm still going to come up like this, B, C, and if you've worked on those patterns, D, you'll know what I'm saying. Hopefully you're seeing it's the same thing you already learned. The only difference is I first taught, instead of starting it here on the 12th fret, we started it on the 5th fret. And that's because we were in a different scale. Again, that's pattern 6, where I'm at now. If I play it here, that would have been pattern 6 in the key of C major. But we're going to take that same pattern, the 6th note of this scale, G major, is E. And that's why I showed you to play it up here. And again, I'll talk about the open note in a minute, why we can still play it down here too, in this spot. But I know you'll see it here first. So we have E, F sharp, there's, and then your G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. And you can see that looks like the same pattern. It sounds different. Again, that's because we're not in this scale anymore. We're actually in this scale. So that means if we play that same pattern, I'm going to show you whatever, when you were in the key of C, we played that pattern here on the A note. And again, that's because that was the 6th note of this scale. Then whatever pattern came after it or before it, I'm going to tell you it has to connect the same way, because if it worked in the other scale, then all we're going to do is move these patterns, and whatever goes before this or after it will look the same. So if I move that pattern up here to the 12th fret so it can put me in this scale, that means if I know this is pattern 6, if you memorized your patterns and the names, 7 and 1 comes next. And the reason that works is because that's F sharp and G, 7 and 1. We learned 7 and 1 in this scale, but that's because B and C was 7 and 1. So we had learned it here, B and C, and you probably know, or you should, that's pattern 7 and 1. And then we took that pattern, what I'm saying is if we started on the 7th note of this scale, which is F sharp, now I'm on an F sharp because E, F sharp, and if I play the same pattern, I'm now in a different scale. I'm in the key of G major. Okay, now I'm on those small frets. Now let me back up and I'll show you how to see this here. Let me take the pattern I just did first. If I start on this note on the 2nd fret, we know this is an F. So that means if I go forward, that's going to be an F sharp, which is what we need for this scale again, the G major. 7th note of this scale is an F sharp. So if I take the pattern I learned in this scale, that is the 7th and 1st note. Now here, we're going to play the same thing. The only difference is we're starting on F sharp instead of when we learned it in C, starting on a B and then C. Now we're going to have F sharp, G. But it's going to look the same. So that's why I said you can kind of sometimes just have this memorized by the frets. I do, honestly. When I see that, I see the fingers. That way it helps me. I see that. That's what definitely helps me play it that fast. I mean, there's other things too, but I have those fingers all memorized. But I actually do, because I finally got smart, I do see that F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, because I know F's here. So that helps me see that just went up 1, because I knew F already went there. So again, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A. Now if I backpedal, we know we tune the 6th string to an E. E again is the 6th note of this scale. So I'm going to play the same pattern I started with here at the 12th fret, but because of your open notes, if you have a sharp or 2 sharps later on, sometimes you have to play it a little different on the guitar, and it might make pattern 6 look a little different here. So I'm going to kind of show you this. I'm going to hold my fingers so you can see it the same way I just showed it to you up here. Then I'll make sure you understand the right fingers you're going to use. See, this is a fret, so I would have E, this is pattern 6, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E. Now here I can't go back because this is a G. I need an F sharp. I can't go any farther back on this string, so the only thing I can do is take this note, the E, and if we know that's F, I have to go here. So that means if you saw this as pattern 6, it's going to look a little different. E, F sharp. And this is me pattern 6. G, A, B, C, D, E. I'm going to have to go F sharp. Now the rest of it. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. Now don't let me confuse you. There's no reason to have your finger out there, so you take these and just do it like this. E, F sharp. So use this finger. That way you can have this in case we need it. The same thing, this, and then let your open notes just be played. So E, F sharp, G, open 5th for A, B, C, your open 4th, D, E, and then I'm stretching up for my F sharp, same string, I'm on the 4th fret. Then the open 3rd string for G, A, open 2nd string for B, and then C, and then D, open 1st string for E, F sharp on the 2nd fret, and then G. Okay, and then if I started the next pattern, I'm going to be on the 7-1, so it's going to look like F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp. So it's going to look just like pattern 7 and 1, because I'm away from the open notes now, so this pattern will always look the same. And if I know this is 7 and 1, and I have it memorized that pattern 2 comes next, then you're going to take 2, which in the key of C would have been D. So the same pattern you knew from that one, but A's the second note now. So if I just play that pattern here, here's pattern 2, it's going to look just like I know it. Okay, now again, if I said the letters for that, that gives you your A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C. Okay, and then I can go to the next one, because if I know this is pattern 7 and 1, pattern 2, then I'm going to know that pattern 3, 4 comes next. So I'm going to play that the same way. I already know I memorized those fingers. That's why I stressed memorize all that. The only thing that's different is I'm starting this on a different letter. I'm going to start it on B, because B is going to be the 3rd note of the scale and the 4th note C. And they're going to be a half step. So I'm going to take that same pattern that I already know and just start it on B. So I could say scale notes: 3rd note, 4th note, 5th note, 6, 7, 1, and I could do it that way, which eventually we'll explain that too. Letters, same way, and I see it better now, letters, but it's the same thing. B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D. And as always, doing backwards. And I admit, when you say the letters, you'll probably want to go even slower, because it's always tricky to say the alphabet a little bit backwards. Okay, in the next lesson, we'll kind of explore the same thing, same scale, but I'm going to kind of do a quick review, and I'm just going to go on the next lesson straight in order with the patterns I'm showing you right now. But we'll stay one more lesson in the key of G to kind of make sure I reinforce that. Thanks for watching T.O.L Studios.